What's going on, gamers? Hopefully everybody's enjoying a New Year's out there or wherever you are. A lot of fireworks over here. We got an interesting video here by GameSpot saying how Nintendo won the console war. Now, I haven't watched it, so we're going to be watching this the first time together. But what I'm going to say is, obviously, I know exclusives play a factor in here. Knowing how to create and make great games with love and care, rather than focusing on nonsense and chasing power and all that other stuff. So let's see what he has to say. Let's get into this. There's also a lot, of course, to talk about, but we're going to do this through the video because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some nice key points here. Here we go, y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the console war is over. Ladies and gentlemen, the console war is over. Nintendo won years ago, and they will continue to win unless the industry changes in a big way.
Interesting way to open the video. I can tell you right now, here's my thing. Like, I think anybody that's intelligent realizes they won. It's like they didn't bend the knee. They didn't cuck their games out to anybody else. They don't have to go to PC. They innovate and gave you something that is like, my ecosystem is combined on and off the screen, on and off the living room, in one device. The best design of all time. They gave you the Steam Deck. You got the GameCube coming because of that. And their exclusives just inspire everyone, and they create for everybody, which means they touch the entire world. They stuck to their Japanese culture, and they have a perfect balance across the world. And they've been giving since the 80s. And we're talking about 40 plus years of amazing exclusives, nonstop dropping all year. Like, people were impressed when they saw, oh, look, Microsoft actually has a lot of games. Like, they had to buy that. Nintendo's been doing that for 40 straight years nonstop. Like, and their sales are absolutely astronomical. And their exclusive power, like I tell you, exclusive identity. There's nothing bigger than Nintendo franchises. Pokemon is still the biggest thing in the world.
That's a big statement, but hear me out. I'm not saying consoles as a whole are dying, and I'm not saying PlayStation and Xbox will stop making games altogether.
No.
What I am saying is that as prices continue to rise and exclusives become less exclusive, the proposition value of a traditional console is starting to fade. But not for Nintendo.
We're gonna do a little exercise here. Think of all of the exclusive PlayStation 5 and Xbox games you can. I'll give you a bit. You're thinking? All right, now any of those that came to PC, cut those. Now any of those Xbox exclusives that also came to PlayStation, cut those. What are you left with? Not a lot. No, there's not many. Now I'm going to read to you almost all the exclusives that have come to the Nintendo Switch in the last 5 years. Animal Crossing New Horizons, Paper Mario The Origami King, Bowser's Fury, Mario Golf Super Rush, Mario Superstars, Metroid Dread, New Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond.
That's pretty funny. But no, that's the thing though. That matters.
Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, Zelda Hyrule Warriors, Pokemon Legends EA. You get it. I needed that paper.
Yes, there are a lot of Nintendo Switch games that can only be played on a Nintendo console. Everyone knows this. It's why I bought a Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 on day one. That's why, as of now, I will always buy Nintendo consoles. The value proposition for a Nintendo console is multiple, high-quality, first-party games in any given year.
Yeah.
Since the Switch 2 came out in June, Nintendo has put out Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders, Pokemon Legends EA, and Metroid Prime 4. Meanwhile, PlayStation has released
Hyrule Warriors. He forgot about that, didn't he? Yeah, Age of Calamity. It's like, that's the thing with them. They put out so many games, like, and it's nonstop.
Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei, two great games that will undoubtedly come to PC next year. There was a time when exclusives were the biggest selling point for all three consoles. I bought an Xbox 360 because I thought Gears of War looked rad and I knew Halo 3 would only be on the 360. I bought a PS4 because I wanted to play Naughty Dog's next game. That simply isn't the case anymore. With little patience, I can play nearly every PlayStation and Xbox exclusive on Steam. Not even just on my PC, but on a unified storefront.
For the first time,
I know what he means by that, but there's some games you're going to have to wait on. And there's some PlayStation games, they just do not come over. Like, you think about Demon's Souls Remake, Gran Turismo, and, you know, a couple other games. But for the most part, I get what he's saying, though. Like, because when you look at the Nintendo, you're like, I have to get this or I can't play these games. When I look at something like the Steam Deck, and I think the Steam Deck's a cool thing, or something like Xbox or anything, what do I need it for? I have a PC. You know what I mean? It's just an extension of something that's available everywhere. So there's no exclusive identity. So it doesn't make it as attractive. When it comes to consoles, that is always what is one. Even Steam, the way they're doing things, you know that by Half-Life, you know that by Portal, you know that by Counter-Strike, you know what I mean? And they share Left 4 Dead with, consoles a bit. But even then, if Half-Life 3 drops, it's going to be on Steam. And that's going to be absolutely massive. You know what I mean? So, and that's what sell the Steam machine big time. There's no way of getting around exclusive identity. I said the same thing. Mickey Mouse ruled the world at one point. Pokemon still rules the world. Mario rules the world in certain ways. You know what I mean? You think about Apple products. It's only in the Apple ecosystem, and they're number 2 on the market. NVIDIA, number 1 on the market, though. Screw them lately, you know what I mean, for a while. But I'm still saying something here. When you think about Windows, though, don't even start with Windows 11, but when it was great, you think about Microsoft, you know what I mean? When you think about Valve, you think about Steam. When you think about Linux, like these identity aspects, when you thought about Master Chief and Halo back in the days, you thought about Xbox. It defines things. You need your exclusive identity. Identity is everything. If you don't have that, then you just have an identity crisis and people are not going to be drawn to you. So brand has power. Like when you see that Nike check, and when you go somewhere, it pulls you over to take a look at something different from Adidas and different from other things. When you see sports and you see certain icons, that's identity. It draws you in. When you see the Lakers, that's identity. Even though people can't let go of a boy, they can let go of the Cowboys. But you guys get what I'm saying, though. Same thing in college. Everywhere, there's always like something somebody puts on, and there's some identity there that they want to represent. If you don't give them identity, it's a problem because it's an identity crisis. And Nintendo understands this more than anyone. They have a strong identity. Sony messed up their identity in Japan. He tried the Nishino tried to drop the price down by $200. He's like, man, we gotta get our identity back in Japan. It's just all Nintendo. When he sees that, it's like, man, all I see is Nintendo everywhere. You know what I mean? Microsoft, when you think about Xbox, they lost their identity. So they have to go everywhere to identities that function on their own. Yes, I could say what he has to say about PlayStation is the same thing, but Sony still has a hardware identity that no matter what, you ain't gonna drop them down. They're still gonna sell a lot, and they still have their mascots, and they will be there, and they're gonna money hat with identities there too, and start up third-party identities until it can come out. And that time window matters for some people because I don't want to wait. Definitely with the highest diminishing returns lately. But Nintendo, full straight exclusive identity. Don't got to share. Don't need to.
I think I've taken my Xbox and packed it up. I don't use my Xbox. I haven't used it in a long time. I don't need to use my Xbox. Now, I understand the pain of building a PC, setting up a PC. It's a lot of work. It can be a little finicky. Something might go wrong. But
now more than ever, it's terrible with the pricing. Oh my God.
Dig a little deeper though. A lot of people don't buy a console just for the exclusives. A big selling point is the reasonable price tag and convenience of owning a console over a PC. I like the idea of having a piece of tech that is designed for playing games first and foremost, but even
100% what he just said. That's why the PS5 Pro at $650 was the most insane deal lately in this market. And it was.
Even this argument is starting to erode. The Xbox Series X has only gotten more expensive since it launched in 2020, and the PS5 Pro is $750. Sure, you may not be able to find a PC at a similar price range that packs the same punch as a PS5 Pro.
Not even close now.
But graphically, we're starting to split hairs here. Do you remember that PS5 Pro video where Mark Cerny would zoom in like 5 times to show that the image was a little bit sharper? As a PS5 Pro owner, I'll be the first to admit that this is getting ridiculous. Look, there will always be a market for folks who want the best possible frame rates and resolutions, but as consoles and PC parts get more and more expensive, I have to imagine this contingent will shrink even further.
But I think it gets even more complicated when you consider the Steam machine coming out early next year, or the first half of next year. To me, this thing kind of represents where consoles are going in the future, right? We are seeing a world where pretty much there's no such things as exclusives aside from Nintendo. Those are coming to everything. They're coming to Steam. You get a Steam machine, in theory, you'd have access to most of PlayStation's exclusive library, all of Xbox's exclusive library. Sure, not all of those games come out day and date. I think a lot of Sony exclusives, they like to wait 6 months, sometimes a year. But I think considering everything Steam has going for it, The draw of buying a PlayStation day one because you need to play a specific game kind of isn't appealing anymore, especially when they're only releasing like 2 to 3 exclusives a year.
And looking ahead, it sounds like the next Xbox console and PlayStation 6 are catering to that hardcore audience who...
I get what he's trying to say in that sense, but the problem with that is that Sony doesn't put every game on Steam, though. There's games that they're just not putting on there. Gran Turismo still has not went there. There's identity there too. And then there's now where the PC market is so much hell, though I know he's trying to speak neutrally out of that. And the video cards are so much hell. GPUs are going to go up. DRAM crisis is going up. If you want to try to build a PC to match the PS5 Pro now, it's going to be impossible. And Sony can just give you that plug and play. You can get right on there, and they have a really good ecosystem that you can trust. So I'm always going to have a PlayStation because I don't want to wait a year. Why do I want to do that when diminishing returns are so ridiculous now? And rasterization isn't as improved as nowhere near as it used to be because of all this AI stuff. I just don't see the point. And then when PS6 launches, what is the point of trying to even compare a PC to it? You're not going to notice no difference ever again. The PS5 Pro, it's getting closer now. You know, the difference is going to be, performance difference. Like I can always get like 60 plus frames because I have this. Like my insane PC that I have right here, it just blows away everything. But like I said, I'm not waiting to play Ghost of Yotei. I'm not waiting to play Death Stranding. I'm not waiting to play Soros. I'm not waiting to play Wolverine. You know, all that type of stuff. Like there's not going to be that much of a difference. Like, and that's where I don't want to wait. But I get what he's saying too. You can wait. You got more content than ever. But with this market getting so insane, consoles to me become more attractive than ever. Because they're just pricing everybody out, man. It's ridiculous.
Want the highest fidelity, at least based on what we know so far, which is not much. But as the line between consoles and PCs blur, the value proposition for a console gets thinner and thinner and thinner, especially as the price closes in on $1,000. Times are tough and folks are starting to get priced out of this. And look, if you're willing to spend that much on a console, when does it make more sense to just bite the bullet and build a PC or get a Steam machine? The cherry on top being that Steam is way more consumer friendly than Sony or Microsoft.
But I also think there's something else here that I don't think a lot of people talk about, and it is how Nintendo operates as a company versus less so PlayStation, but especially Microsoft.
There's a reason why Nintendo games are generally higher quality experiences. There are exceptions, sure, but Nintendo exclusives are well-designed, polished games that feel like premium products. Aside from a Pokemon game here or there, I've never picked up a Nintendo game concerned that it may not work. Sure, Nintendo games might not be for you, and that's totally fine, but they are more consistent than Sony and way more consistent than Microsoft, especially when you consider the sheer volume of exclusives they put out. The way I see it, there are two reasons for this. One, Nintendo isn't trying to chase cutting-edge graphics and instead opting for distinct art styles. These past couple generations have really shown how higher fidelity presentation leads to longer development times, bigger teams, and larger budgets. By doubling down on artistic style, Nintendo has largely been able to avoid this side of development.
I love a good Sony AAA experience. Ghost of Yotei was a lot of fun. Big fan of The Last of Us, but those games take so long to make, and they're only going to take longer unless the technology or workflow changes, right? So production budgets are expanding, they're ballooning, but also it requires way more staff. You need hundreds, if not thousands of people working on these games, and the costs just keep going up and up and up.
Now too, and probably more importantly, Nintendo doesn't lay people off, at least not in the same way Microsoft has this year. Institutional knowledge is a thing, and when you're constantly bleeding employees and relying on contract work, a lot gets lost in the mix. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild exists because developers like Eiji Aonuma have been working on Zelda for decades. Now obviously there are some cultural differences at play here, but that doesn't change the fact that Nintendo has consistently put out some of the best games of all time in just the last decade.
So look, I'm not here saying that, you know, in 10 years, Xbox and PlayStation are going to be gone and Nintendo will rule everything. I don't think that'll be the case. I think there will still be plenty of Sony developed and published games. I think
100%.
there will still be hardware from both Xbox and Sony. I'm less confident about Xbox than Sony. I think the
because I was gonna say I don't know about Microsoft, but Sony 100% sure. I know Steam will be around in a different way too, depending on what Valve is going to want to do, but he's right about Nintendo dropping some of the best exclusives of all time. They have the highest Metacritics too. A lot of 97 metas, 95, 94, 93, like all over the place, selling 20, 30, 40 million. Animal Crossing selling 50 million, getting 92, 93 meta, the best sim of all time. Like, I mean, and they have that perfect balance too across all genres and spectrums, you know? You're getting everything from them in all genres. And you can do it on the go or docked. Obviously, the Switch One hardware is a little bit dated for a while, but that's over with now. And developers just got lazy. But you could see that it's not really that. It's about that experience more than anything. And they touch more of the world than anybody. And yeah, I mean, I will never not have their console because I have to get it. And I grew up playing Nintendo since 1993. And that's not the only reason why, but because they're that good. Because I had Sega too. You know, I had PlayStation as well. I always loved all.
PlayStation 5 has sold like 84 million units at this point, so I think Sony is safe. But what I am saying is that this proposition value of consoles, of platforms, is getting very nebulous. There is less and less of a reason to spend almost $1,000 on a console when you can build a PC, get way more out of it. Meanwhile, over here we have Nintendo, which is still kind of fulfilling that proposition value of a console. You buy a Nintendo console and you have access to a bunch of exclusives that you can only play there. It gives me a reason to buy a Nintendo console.
And look, I'm not saying that every platform holder needs to become Nintendo. Nintendo has its fair share of issues that are worth examining and criticizing, and their business strategy can't be replicated. I'm also not saying to ditch your consoles and go out and build a PC right now.
No, because it's the worst time to do it now. It's worse than ever. I don't agree with that proposition anymore. It doesn't work anymore. The PS5 Pro at $650 blew away anything in this holiday. Okay, and when you're looking at the market now, and even the PS5 Pro right now is still for its price. Though I think they should have kept it at $700, but it would have went up anyways this year. You have that, you're good. You know what I mean? You could play all those games and all Xbox games. This is no different than PC, except PC just has Steam. With the stuff that's going on Steam. PlayStation to me it was always kind of like the open PC market in the console industry where they try to get as many third-party games and money hats as possible. Everybody does the exclusive game. Like I said, Valve never showed a lot of its exclusives, Dota and all that. So all that to me does not matter. But there's an argument against what do you want? And I'll tell you right now, I'm not spending $750 or $800 on a Steam machine when I get the PlayStation 5 Pro that blows it away technically and still get all my PS5 exclusives, get that day one, and get all the Xbox games day one, and play it at way better settings. And get the money hats. You see what I'm saying? No, because PC's not really winning to me in that category anymore. Like, it's not like, no, man. Like, but I can understand if you say, oh, well, I can get full mods and get cheaper stuff and I have to pay for online. Kind of, but the difference now of trying to build a high-end PC, it's ridiculous. It's not worth it, man. You're going to be spending, getting a new car money, man, or some nice used car or something. Like, it's ridiculous right now. Now, if we're talking about last year around this time and years before, sure, I get what you're saying. But now it's more, PC gaming is being destroyed, and I hate it. That's why I'm glad I got my stuff out the way. But there's still nice propositions there. I'm just saying that the difference is now too, like, oh, I can blow you away graphically. Not anymore, man. It's hard to kind of do that now. Now you'll get a lot more frames and stuff like that. And you get a lot more customizations. And I still want the Steam machine to come on the market because what I want Valve to do is set out something that is not Windows 11 oriented and be able to give you a more powerful model later that is going to be more attractive. Then it's like, oh yeah, now you're releasing something else. But first you got to let this AI feed ridiculous hell with DRAM, SSD, GPUs and all that with NVIDIA just kind of pop and die down. Other than that, it's going to be tough.
What I am saying is that now, more than ever, especially as prices continue to rise, there are fewer and fewer incentives to buy into the Xbox or PlayStation ecosystem. The only console that still consistently gives me a reason to turn it on is my Nintendo Switch 2.
When the next Xbox
I can understand that though if you got a PC.
Out, honestly, I may not buy them. And that'll be the first time since the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. That'll be the first time ever. Not even that. That'll be the first time ever where I'm not going to get the big Xbox and PlayStation console because there's just not a reason to. There's not a reason. But I will still be purchasing Nintendo consoles if they continue this business strategy. So is the console war over? Has Nintendo won? Let me know in the comments below. And for more end of year and game of the year coverage,
Yeah, they did win a long time ago. Everybody knows that. And there's a different war that's going on though. Digital stream, clouds, and jacking up the price apparently. But great video here though. I like this video. But I'm gonna get the PS6. It maybe doesn't have to be day one. I don't know. I think I still will because Sony's gonna have a whole bunch of money hats and exclusives, and those diminishing returns are going to be insanely high. There's not going to be no difference anymore. You're just going to have to do some ridiculous path tracing stuff. Other than that, dude, you're going to be getting 120 frames on that thing, though, easy. I mean, so easy. So, PlayStation, Nintendo, I think you should always have. Though you don't have to have PlayStation. You can have a PC. I get what he's saying. Xbox, you don't need it all. And Microsoft's made that clear. They even said it themselves. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this. It's an interesting video. Later, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.